Hey, everybody. We are now joined by Kiefer Jones from the Calgary Seeing Ice Dogs blind hockey team and world renowned blind golfer. Kiefer, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nico. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. We're excited to chat with you. And, this is going to be a unique opportunity because normally we're almost solely focused on blind hockey, but it's pretty rare we get the chance to talk with a world champion in another parasport. And I want to start off our conversation by focusing on blind golf. Kiefer, tell us how old you are and what age did you start playing blind golf?
I am 31 years old. I started playing hockey when I was 16 and I moved back to Calgary from Mexico. So yeah, I didn't really get to, I always liked it as a kid and I liked it when I lived in Mexico, but I never got to play it. So
Hmm.
other than a little bit of street puck with another Canadian friend, that's about the extent of my hockey before high school. So
Interesting. Now, I got to think down in Mexico, while there may not have been a ton of opportunity to play hockey, there would have been a lot of opportunity for you to hit the link. So, what was that like golfing down in Mexico?
it was interesting. It's um, definitely not as popular, in my opinion, down there as, say, North America, especially, the States is huge with golf. But yeah, Mexico, we had a membership at a course where I could go play 36 holes a day and not run into a single person
Hmm.
and just basically have the course to myself. So, needless to say, I got lots of practice and uh, they always had cool tournaments come into those, unique courses too. So, some once in a while as a member, you get a special privilege to go watch and sneak in and get a close look at some guys. But yeah, other than that, it's just a real nice place to play a ton of golf.
Very cool. Do you remember how old you were when you first picked up a golf club?
Yeah, plastic club. I would have been about 18 months. Um, I, I I don't remember when I got my first club cut down,
Hmm.
but my dad would cut down a regular golf club and just cut it to about a foot long, and so I was maybe only a couple years old by the time I was swinging a regular club.
Wow, very cool. And then I want to fast forward a bit because I think in 2016 is when you first found out about blind golf. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had heard about it before, maybe a few years before that, and I just didn't really think much of it. I didn't know what it was, and I hadn't really gotten into the point where I was like, oh, I'm going to go play blind golf. I just didn't know much about it. So I just was playing golf for fun and playing with my friends and playing men's nights and stuff like that. And I just came across, my aunt actually gave me an article that posted about a guy in Creston. And so I started looking into it a little bit more. And yeah, the next year I was playing and it was a life changer.
Very interesting. And then fast forward to 2018 at the Blind World, excuse me. Fast forward to 2018 at the Blind Golf World Championships and tell us a little bit about that story because that was the year I think you really announced your presence on the blind golf scene.
Yeah. So to get to the world championships, my first world championships was there were certain stipulations you had to qualify, and one of those was being you had to have played a certain amount of events the year before.
Hmm.
So I needed to go the year before for like an emergency trip to Australia, which I mean, not so bad. Go to Australia to play some golf, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of just a last minute thing. I would go to Australia, play a couple tournaments. I happened to win both of those to qualify for the World Championships. And so yeah, the next year we were off to Italy, and we got to play in the Italian Open and the World Championships all in one trip.
Hmm.
So that was pretty cool. And yeah, it was just a really good year for myself. I placed first in the Italian Open and the World Championships in my category,
Hmm.
um, as well as overall. So it was just a really good time.
Very cool. I remember I was in Italy in 2018 as well. And I remember you sent me a message because I think we just missed each other by a week or so.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool that you got that experience to not only travel the world, but play in some of these high pressure, big stakes tournaments. So in terms of that journey, it all came together pretty quickly. What was it like for you when you had that moment where you were named, you won the world championship in blind golf?
Oh, I mean, I was playing with my competitor. You know, I played day one. I can't remember. I played with a few different people, but the last couple days of the World Championships and everything, you know, I was playing with the guy that was close to me, that was, you know, kind of chasing me down. So I kind of knew where I stood unless someone out there was having a crazy round. And so it was more just, you know, trying to keep it contained until the last putt actually went in. I kind of knew where I stood and I knew I was a few shots in the lead. So, you know, even on the last hole, it's just, you know, just play it like any other hole, get the ball down there, get it in the hole. And, you know, when it's in, then you can think about what you've just done. So it was cool. Everybody was standing around the green and watching and cheering. And so it was a really, really cool experience.
Oh, that's really interesting. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you because you mentioned you played in Australia, you've played in Italy, you've played in Mexico, the US, you've played all over the world. What is your favorite course to play at?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of courses on my bucket list that I haven't played. Um, but I mean, when I went to Australia for the Australian Open to qualify for the Worlds, we got to play at the Royal Sydney,
Mm.
which is a very, very prestigious golf course. It like you have to be born in as a member there. You don't
Wow.
just get to walk in and buy a membership there. So there's been tons of Australian Opens, like PGA Tour, you know, events held at that course. It was probably one of the toughest courses I've ever played, just because of the difficulty of how fast the greens were. And I like fast greens, but you know, it was really, really tough. And you know, you could miss a shot and just roll off the green, and you could be 50 yards away in a pot bunker that you can't even see out of.
Wow.
So yeah, it was crazy. And I would have to say that one, just that whole experience itself, that would have to be it. The Royal Sydney in Australia.
And since you brought it up, I gotta ask if you could play any course tomorrow on your bucket list, what's the number one course you're playing?
I mean, other than just going to St. Andrews for the experience, I've always been a huge fan of TPC Sawgrass. And
Yes.
to me, it's just a classic. You know, I've always been a fan of the Players Championship.
Hmm.
And yeah, I would have to say if I could fly anywhere to play a round tomorrow, it would be TPC.
You know, I love that answer. I think so many people think of Augusta or Pebble Beach, and
Yeah.
often that TPC Sawgrass course sort of gets forgotten about. But dude, I'm the same as you. Like when I first got exposed to golf, I remember watching those tournaments, watching that iconic green, the island green, and all the guys putting it in the water and trying to get there. And yeah, for sure, if I had a chance, I would be right there with you.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, shortest par three on tour, right? And one of the biggest greens. And you know how many people put the ball in the water there. So it's a Pete Dye masterpiece with you know I think if they did a blind tournament there,
Mm.
there'd be a lot of different opinions about it because Pete Dye, he designs his courses to be so visually intimidating, but to someone who can't see the hazards, you know, it's just a regular golf course. When you think about it, a guy that can't see the water doesn't think about the water. So
That's pretty interesting. We'll have to figure a way to get you down there and maybe
yeah,
shoot a little video or something because that's a really good point that you bring up. If you can't see it, it's not really in your mind. So that's
yeah,
interesting.
you shouldn't be thinking about it. So
Now, I desperately want to ask you for some tips on my game, but I don't know that you can really help me out unless we get on the course together. So we'll have to leave that for the future. But in the meantime, for folks who are maybe just hearing about blind golf for the first time, can you explain to us a little bit about the sport and some of the modifications that allow a golfer who's blind or partially sighted to play the game?
yeah, so I mean, it's really just, it's just like regular golf. We use the same equipment, same clubs, same balls, same courses. The cups aren't any bigger. There's nothing different about it except a few rule changes that allow a visually impaired player to set up properly. So, for example, for myself or for anyone else who's visually impaired, it helps to have your guide maybe stand behind you as you're setting up, which in regular golf, your caddy's allowed to help you, but he's not allowed to stand behind you as you're making your shots. He's not allowed to help you, line up your putts with your putter head and stuff like that. So for the guys that are B1s and have no vision, it's quite impressive to watch them play because their caddies and their guides are a huge part of their game, because they have to practice so much together to just get the basic feel down, to get basic, this is a 10-foot putt, and to hit it 10 feet without being able to see 10 feet, So there's a few differences like that. For myself, there's a big one. It's being able to lay your club down in a hazard. So usually for regular golf, you're not allowed to lay your club down in the sand before you make your swing. You're not allowed to lay your club down in a red marked hazard before your swing. In blind golf, you are, just to know where the ground is, to know, just the depth of your shot. So other than that, it's a lot of the same rules and just a few small modifications.
Oh, that's really interesting. You mentioned the role of the caddy and your guide, and really, even though it's an individual sport, you sort of have a team there supporting you. And I want to dive in a little bit in terms of the role your mom, Deb, has with you as she serves as your director. So can you talk a little bit about how she helps you on the course, and then what it's been like to share that journey with her from getting involved to all the way to winning the world championship?
Well, it's pretty funny actually, because the way it came about, I originally had, for my first ever blind golf tournament, I had someone else as my caddy, who kind of bailed last minute. So my mom was like, "Oh, I'll go with you," and I'm like, "Well, I need someone, right? Like someone's got to watch my ball." So it was kind of last minute, and she stepped up and she did really good. She wanted to know anything she could do to help me. Her struggle at the start was actually following the ball. She maybe not have, she doesn't have as great eyesight as someone who watches golf and follows golf balls all the time. It almost takes a little bit of training to follow the golf ball and see it land and finish. So to get her to come help me, she had to do a lot of work just to get up to speed. But we went out, and first tournament, I had one of my best rounds that I ever played. And it just felt good. So I told her she has the job as long as she wants it. And she was more than happy to continue. And, she's totally happy going to Australia and Italy and, going on these trips. She's loving it. So, so far it's been a really cool experience.
Very cool. And on the, I guess further to that point, if someone is learning about blind golf for the first time, they're maybe curious to try it, but don't really know how to get started. What advice would you have for them?
Just contact the organization and see what they can do to help you out. See if they know someone in the area. Because I think the hardest part about joining blind golf is getting someone who's committed to being your guide. Once you can find someone that's committed to helping you and being your guide, and it makes it so much easier because you have to practice with them. You have to play with them lots. They have to know your game better than you know your game. So just get in contact with someone in the organization. They'll help you out. They'll get you started. Once we get started with, and we can get back to the normal of our golf and get back to tournaments and stuff like that, we are going to be having junior clinics at all the events to get kids involved and get them out to the event just to come see and come check it out, right? Because they might not know they like golf, you know, until they hit their first shot and they get that first ball up in the air, you know. So just come out, try it out. You may not even think it's for you, but it might be, and you know, the next day you're hooked. So yeah, that's my advice, is just get a hold of someone.
That's really cool to hear about the junior clinics that'll be happening as well. I think that's a great initiative. And like you said, definitely a good way to get, the next generation of visually impaired golfers into the sport. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, switching from the links to the rink, let's talk a little blind hockey here. You mentioned when you first started playing hockey, but maybe flash back a little bit and put us in your skates, what it felt like the first time you were playing blind hockey. And now fast forward to where you are now in your career, having represented Team Canada. I guess, what are your overall impressions and thoughts of blind hockey?
Well, I mean, my first time playing blind hockey, I want to say 16 or 17. It was pretty much the first year that I played any hockey. So I just started, I think, playing roller hockey when I moved back to Calgary. And the thing about roller hockey was I was able to get, I may not be able to see the puck as well, but I was able to have space because it's 4-on-4. So it's a little bit slower and a little bit, I just had a little bit more time. So that was good. But, I found out about blind hockey that year when I was in school. There was another friend of mine, Blaine, who I went to school with, and he actually said, hey, come check out blind hockey. So I popped down to the rink that next practice, and, it was a scrimmage with, some blind visually impaired guys and some guys that are, have perfect vision that are there just to help out. And it was an eye opener for sure, because it was a different game, to be able to see the puck from further away and actually see the puck, and to be able to play with people that were struggling with the same vision loss and other things like that. Right. So it was a game changer to just be able to compete again. And when I joined Team Canada, a lot of those guys have very similar vision to myself. So there's a lot of, bonding that goes on in that group. That's a very tight group. A lot of people, go through the same struggles. So you're there to help each other out when they need it. And it's just a really good group of friends. And that was an experience of a lifetime, to be on Team Canada and be wearing the maple leaf and, out there with that group of guys. And yeah, it was really cool.
You just stole my thunder a little bit. I was just going to ask you what that experience was like, because 2018, you're on the World Golf Championship stage representing Canada. Fast forward 2019, you're part of the Canadian national blind hockey team after a grueling selection camp. I mean, that was a tough process in itself. And then you make the team and you go to Ottawa and you win gold. What was that whole feeling like for you?
I honestly didn't even know if I was going to make the team. There was a lot of doubt there because, I showed up to camp and it was already tough. And then I think it was like the second or third day in, they introduced two new guys who are just unbelievable hockey players. And I think, Tristan being one of them, I text Tristan every now and again. I still consider, he's a really good friend. So, man, they came into the locker room and we're all just like, oh my God, like there go two spots. So now we're all thinking like, oh, now who's cut, So to come back to Calgary and a couple weeks later get the phone call I was on the team, that was pretty cool in itself. So yeah, to actually play on that team and play with those guys was really cool.
One of the things you mentioned that I think is pretty cool about both blind golf and blind hockey, it doesn't really matter what age you are. There's going to be an opportunity to participate and even compete, because you mentioned with blind golf, you're one of the younger guys at 31 years old. When we think about blind hockey, we've got players who are in their 80s. So what's it like to be a part of two sports that you've kind of got a family for life for there?
Yeah, there's definitely a few guys, in hockey that are older that are like, they push and like they compete. And, in hockey, it's a little different because you got to physically compete.
Mm.
with the younger guys as you get older. In golf, it's not so much physicality, but like there's guys that are, yeah, they're 85, 89, and they're still playing blind golf and like winning their seniors categories,
Wow.
So my friend George Thurkill from BC,
Mm-hmm.
he's one of the oldest competing in blind golf, and he must take home a medal or a trophy every tournament.
Wow. That's really
So,
cool.
especially, golf is a sport that you can play. It doesn't matter if you get old,
Mm.
uh, if you get weaker or whatever. It's a sport that doesn't require you to be too physical. So you can, you know, you can still enjoy it regardless.
I think another similarity between the two sports, obviously, the two sports are just so intertwined. So many hockey players play golf in the summer, so many
Yeah.
golfers love hockey as well. But I think one of the great challenges about both sports is the mental aspect of the game. And obviously, with golf, you being out there by yourself competing against a field, it's a little more prevalent. But I'm sure there were mental challenges as well with your blind hockey career. So, can you touch a little bit about the importance of staying mentally strong and aware of your mental health in both sports?
Yeah. I mean, I guess when it comes to the mental side of golf, golf is so mental. It's you get all this time to think about what you're going to do.
Mm.
And for some people, I think that's what hurts them the most is just not putting in maybe the practice time, and getting their body to remember what they needed to do instead of their mind. A lot of it you want to take your mind out of, and the only real thing, it's I use my mind when I'm doing my math, right? When I'm adding yards and subtracting yards and picking clubs and stuff like that. But once I've got my club and I know what type of shot I want to hit, I try to forget all of that. And I just, there's a reason that we practice. And it's the same in hockey, right? The reason that we practice and we have our coaches teach us these drills, that are so crucial to our game, it's because when it comes down to it in hockey, you don't have time to think. Where in golf, you do. So in hockey, you don't have time to think about it. You have to know where you are, what you're doing, and when you need to do it, and how to execute that move. So there's a little bit of difference in how you can think about those two games, but in the end, it comes down to practice and muscle memory.
All right. Well, it is time for us to get to our rapid fire segment. You guys know that sound. Let's get it going with Kiefer Jones here from the Calgary Seeing Ice Dogs. Kiefer, what hockey jersey number do you wear?
66.
Beautiful. Any particular reason?
Honestly, no. I always just liked the way it looked. I had people go like, "Oh, do you think you should be wearing 66?" As Mario. And I was just going like, "Well, I'm not wearing a Penguins 66, so it shouldn't really matter, But I definitely understand why some people give me the look when, in beer league wearing 66. But that's the number, so get used to it, boys.
I love it. I know we call you Chief or Chief Keef sometimes, but maybe I'll have to start calling you Super Keef out there on the ice. All right. What is your favorite pregame meal?
Oh, I'd have to go with pasta of some sort. I'm not really a guy that has a pregame routine. I would say back in my roller hockey days with my buddy Kenton, we used to do taco time every day before roller hockey.
I don't know that would go so well with the national team, but I like that.
No, they wouldn't like that very much.
What is your least favorite food? The one thing you will never, ever eat?
I'm not a very picky guy. I don't know if I'd have one, but let's go with curry, something with curry on it.
I got you there. Do you have a favorite hockey player, either current or past?
Well, I mean, who doesn't like Ovi? I think ever since before he was in the NHL, I liked Ovi. So he's got to be my number one. Flames fan here, diehard Flames fan, but I'm still going to pick Ovi over anyone else.
Do you like the pickup of Markstrom for the Flames?
Love it. How do you not love it?
Totally.
He is the Flames right now. So
Seriously. Okay, on the same vein, who is your all-time favorite golfer?
Phil Mickelson, without a doubt.
Lefty, really?
Yeah, I'm a lefty. I know he's American, but I grew up watching him, idolized him growing up. The flop shots, the short game skill. Probably because of him is why I have a good short game. Yeah, I mean, I attribute pretty much all of my short game to Phil. And yeah, been watching him for years, and he's been my idol since I can remember. So
interesting. As someone who lacks a short game, I appreciate that. So I'll have to get some tips from you there.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite club to use, a favorite golf club that you use?
My driver was pretty kind to me last year, but I have a wedge that I use from everywhere from 100 and in, and I'll use it out of the sand, out of the long stuff. You know, I'll chip right off the fringe with it. So yeah, it's my 61-degree lob wedge. That's probably the one I use the most, other than the putter.
Well, and I was just about to ask you, what do you think about the belly putters? I know most of them have been outlawed, but as a world champion, what's your take on the belly putter?
I never really used them, so I've always been a pretty standard looking guy when it comes to putting. You know, regular, maybe a little bit longer putter than some people, but definitely never belly putter length. There are some guys in blind golf now that are using putters that, you know, the head is maybe this big.
Wow.
And it actually stands on its own. So you can get behind and you can line up your own putt before you stand and grab the putter head or the grip. So there's some equipment coming out that is super beneficial for blind golf. I don't know if it's being made specifically for it, but I know a couple guys using it now, and they seem to really like it. I have an old blade putter, Scotty Cameron, and I just did a few modifications to it myself for my own vision, you know, to be able to adjust and see the putter the way I want to see it. So,
oh, that's really cool. Do you have a favorite movie? What's your favorite movie?
Anything with like Will Ferrell in it or Adam Sandler.
So it's got to be Happy Gilmore then, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love Happy. I actually just watched that the other day. But yeah, I mean, that's a classic. But I was actually going to go and probably say like Step Brothers or Old School.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Frank the Tank all day. Now, I got to ask you, if you ever had the chance to use the Happy Gilmore putter where he puts the hockey blade on the golf club, do you think you could hit a putt with that?
I've considered it. I was actually messing around with my hockey stick the other day and just a full-on hockey stick and was thinking I could putt with this.
Interesting. Interesting. I think we may have to get you to do that. That would certainly go viral.
Might need to straighten out the blade a little bit, but
you know what? I've got an old school stick, wooden stick with a straight blade. For you, I will let you use that as your putter.
We might have to try that just for fun.
I love it. And we'll wrap it up on this note. Do you have a go-to karaoke song?
I do not. I actually don't karaoke at all. I love going to karaoke, but you'll never see me on the stage.
All right. Well, Kiefer, you've been a really great sport for the rapid fire. I want to thank you for that and playing along with us here.
Yeah, no, it's been a blast.
Before we wrap things up, is there any advice or any messages you want to get to the blind hockey community while we're all still away from the rink? I know we're all anxious to get back. We're excited to get back once it's safe to do so, but while we're all still kind of stuck in limbo, whether we're in a stay-at-home order or the rinks just haven't opened up yet, what do you want to say to your teammates and members of the blind hockey community?
Just, you know, if you're skating, keep it up, keep playing. You know, eventually we're all going to be able to get back together here and start playing hockey again. So, you know, when that time comes, I'm sure everybody's going to want to be in their best shape and form. So everybody just keep at it and keep working hard. And soon enough, you'll be playing in these tournaments with each other again. And, maybe you'll be at the next Team Canada tryout.
Awesome stuff. And Kiefer, if folks want to follow along with your career, your blind hockey career, or your blind golf career, how can they connect with you online? How can they follow what you're doing?
I mean, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me through the IBGA or Canadian Blind Golf or Blind Hockey, but I'm on Facebook. And if you're, looking for some sort of info or just guidance into how to get into blind golf, or just advice about it, just hit me up on Facebook and we can chat there.
Well, Kiefer, we can't thank you enough for your time today, for joining us and chatting about both blind hockey and blind golf. And like I said, once we're able to do so, you and I, we're going to have to hit the links together. If not a driving range, definitely a 18 or even a quick 9, whatever we can get in. And hopefully you can help my game out because
yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Yeah. If you saw me this summer, I need some help.
Yeah. Anytime we can meet up and get around, and absolutely.